All right, Dan. Well, it's nice to meet you over Skype here. Thanks for taking the time. And yeah, just tell me a little about yourself. I know that you're in Nebraska, but how long have you been in youth ministry?
Well, I've been in youth ministry for going on 23 years now. And I've been here in Nebraska now for about 17, 18 months. And Lord just is really blessing our ministry here. Was in Wisconsin before, Portland, Oregon before that. And before that, I used to work right there on staff at Dare to Share.
Nice. So, I mean, obviously you have the history with Dare to Share, but as a youth leader, it's from a different end. So, what makes you want to keep coming back?
Probably the biggest thing that makes me want to keep coming back is the fact that it kind of does go back to me knowing and traveling with Greg, but I had the privilege of being with him on a day-to-day basis to see that what he preached, what he taught, was exactly what he did with his life, no matter where we were at. So it gave me a perspective beyond, obviously, beyond what some youth leaders have. But as a youth leader, that specific thing helped me to understand that Greg was and is who he says that he is, and practices what he preaches. That was a sealer for me. But the second part of that as a youth leader, why I keep coming back, is that my kids have this newfound sense of accountability and responsibility to share the gospel in the way that God has intended or made them. And this has become an amazing tool to help them to understand that we may not all be called to be evangelists, but we are all called to witness. And it helps them to overcome some of their fears and things of that nature.
Nice. All right. Well, I mean, there's a lot of different events that are out there, though. Obviously, Dare to Share has its slant and really helping youth leaders and students understand how to reach their peers for Christ. But there's a lot of events. So, what makes Dare to Share actually different, and why would you keep coming back to Dare to Share specifically?
Well, probably the biggest difference for me about Dare to Share than other conferences, and there are a lot of very good conferences out there for training up students, but what makes Dare to Share stand out different for me is what I call personal accountability that comes by way of a student being put in the position to go and share their faith with their peers. It can be a scary thing. And what I found is they've overcome that fear when they've actually taken the time to do either the cell phone challenge, an email challenge, going and then coming home from a Dare to Share conference to talk to their friends. And when they have success in regards to having a good spiritual conversation, or maybe even leading somebody to Christ, I find that they are much more excited about what God is doing in their faith. It's very practical. And that's the part I think sometimes people probably miss, thinking that Dare to Share is just this evangelism conference. It isn't. It's a personal accountability, personal responsibility style of discipleship that becomes a strategic tool for us. This last 17 months, we've seen 70 kids come to Christ in our youth ministry. Many of those have come because of kids who went to Dare to Share, came back and applied it in practical ways, and they see how God is using them. And that has been a real exciting thing for us
That's
here.
that's cool. That is exciting for sure. I mean, that's a lot of kids, but I mean, a lot of people now that are actually their eternity is now changed because of what they've experienced and their friends actually
Yeah.
talking to them. So that's sweet. So what I mean, you've touched on that a little bit, but how are your students as a whole different because of Dare to Share and the training they've received?
One of the things that I've found is once we've come home from the Dare to Share conference, I've been able to take this group to two of them since I've moved here. And what I found is back to that personal accountability, they've become much more eager and confident in getting involved with other specific portions of ministry within our youth group and within the church. And the Dare to Share tool has become the thing that brought them to this place of saying, I can do this. I'm not so scared. It's the understanding of who God has made me, what Christ has done in my life, and he desires to use me now. And now they're able to apply that. So that's how they've been getting involved and how God has been using that. And we just continue to grow because kids just go and talk to their peers, share the gospel, share what God is doing in their lives. And I call it sharing their story. And then they bring their friends and say, come and just hang out with us. And they know that at the end of every youth group event that we have, either myself or many of the students will share the gospel of Jesus Christ, because that's what we take into account as being very important for our group. So they know that they will then have a natural opportunity to share with their friends, asking questions about, what do you think whoever it is that speaks had to say about Jesus? What do you think about that? And
Nice.
that has created an awesome, amazing growth in this youth ministry.
Wow. Cool, man. Well, that was really what I want to chat with you about. I just really appreciate you sharing your heart and how your students have changed, and maybe this will help a youth leader who might be on the fence of, really committing to go, not just because of the experience at the weekend, but the longevity of what it will create for their youth group moving forward, and that strategic piece that you talked about of them being able to
Absolutely.
implement these things. Yeah, so good stuff, man. Well, appreciate your time, and we'll see you in Nebraska.
All right. Thanks, Sean. We'll see you here.